My name is Priya Chopra, and I'm a senior at Wisconsin. My major is finance, investment, and banking, and my hometown is Naperville, Illinois. I was a private wealth management analyst for Morgan Stanley. For a typical day, we were there about 8 to 9 hours. It was 9 hours a day, and 7 of those hours we were cold calling, so that was a little bit rough. And then 2 of those hours we would basically do whatever it is that the advisors, our bosses, would want us to do, whether that was data analysis or making marketing materials for the seminars that we would hold. The internship program was pretty small. There were about 10 of us at one time, and we were sitting in a room connected to the room with the advisors. So there were 3 advisors, and at a given time we were cold calling and just doing whatever it is that they needed us to do. It was disorganized a little bit in the fact that some days we would go a little bit longer because we needed to get ready for one of the retirement planning seminars, which is what they were in charge of doing. I definitely made sure that I knew what was going on in the financial markets. I read the Wall Street Journal. I think it's really important that you make sure you know what you're talking about, especially when you get inside of a high-end corporate job like that, because you'll look really silly, like you don't actually have a passion for what you're doing and you won't excel very fast. It's something that I was fully aware of, how things like timeliness and you're really responsible for the amount of work you have to do, and there isn't, a deadline means a deadline, and it's not something like college where you can pick and go and choose your classes. It's a lot more responsibility and there's a lot more seriousness involved, but as long as you do what you're told to the best of your ability, there's also a lot of reward. I initially knew that I wanted to do something near my hometown, near the Chicagoland area, and Buckingham doesn't have too many for that area, so I talked to my parents' coworkers and just asked them how they initially got their job and asked them if they had done any internships in the area, and luckily someone had, and they got in contact with their old boss who was still with the company, and then I sort of just talked to him and really showed my interest. Definitely, I'm sure they hear this a lot, but networking. Initially, I had to network my way in because things on BuckyNet aren't necessarily always catered to the area where I live in. So I would just talk to people like your parents' coworkers, and even if they're around the age of 30 and they maybe would have no connections to internships, you never know what they have done before. And so how I initially got my internship is I talked to one of my parents' coworkers, and he remembered an internship he did, so he talked to that person, who talked to that person, and then you sort of just get in touch. But don't feel shy about networking, about asking for help, because they'll remember that they were once in that position and they'll be willing to help you. I would definitely say take as much risk in your internship as possible. Ask for as much help. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because you are an intern and they expect you not to know a lot of things. So definitely don't be shy, and even asking for help shows them that you care the most. Don't be afraid to network out of something that isn't necessarily available at BuckyNet, because through my experience I was able to meet a lot of people from different schools who I now have those connections with. So when you go along to have a full-time job, you're able to ask them, what their schools are doing or what companies are coming to their schools, which not only can help your school because you can also make that connection, but also they can help you try to find a job in their network too. So I worked for, the group was called the Mather Group, and there's about 3 analysts, so they didn't really have positions open for hiring full-time or anything, but they basically just said if we ever need a referral letter. They were really nice at the end, but they were just saying, again, just try anything, don't be afraid to ask questions. If we ever needed help from them, they would be there.